with Spirit of Matter. Here on, it's no longer a Sunday, although it's sun, but this is actually a Jupiter night. So Jupiter night and the sun hour with the moon in 23 degrees Cancer, slowly applying to Procyon. So let's take a little moment to hail Procyon, the denucleificator of the fixed stars, that gives us reconciliation, grants us favors, finds a peaceful solution. Let's say if you have enemies or you have people with kind of like bad energies in your way, or even you in your way, then you can call on Procyon to sweeten the energies, to reconcile with enemies, and to kind of diplomatically resolve an issue. So this is Procyon, and the moon is in 20 degrees Scorpio tropical, which rules the ascendant, 12 degrees midheaven with Saturn in the 11th degree of Sagittarius in the 6th house. And the ruler of the hour, of the day, the night, Jupiter, is retrograde in Taurus in the 11th house. Mercury in Capricorn about to station, creating a beautiful bisextile with Venus and Lilith. So we have this nice Venus-Lilith bisextile that's kind of good for communication, about relationships or partnerships. And we have the ruler of the hour, Sun on the 18th degree of Sagittarius, a degree to do with the poison in medicine. But it's actually malefic degree according to Nicolas Stanovich degree theory. Although 18 degrees Aries is the degree of exaltation of the sun. Okay, so that's very interesting contradicting data that we have. This episode will be for you Capricorn, ascendant, sun, moon, or stellium, which means a couple of planets in Capricorn. And this is coming in delay. For Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is right now in 1 degree Pisces in the 9th house. And Saturn rules delays. Okay, and look, I did the forecast, and then I did Sagittarius, and then I'm doing Capricorn already in the 10th of December, for the month of December. So the first thing that happens for you is that's worth mentioning is the retrogression of Mercury. And Mercury retrogrades in your first house, and then it's going to regress back into your 12th house until it comes back into your first. Okay, Mercury is planet related to communication, to the things that you already needed to fix. But with this Mercury retrograde, I get the feeling that things are going to take time to fix because it's Saturn involved. Okay, so Mercury retrograde usually means this is where we need to review our communication, something electric, we need to fix it, or some problems with Saturn related now could be contracts to do with taxation, stuff that you already needed to tend to. Now, because this is your first house, then it might pertain to your skin, because Mercury and Saturn rule the skin. So maybe something to do with healing the skin, or if there is an ailment to do with the skin, perhaps the diagnosis will be revised, or if there's missing diagnosis because Saturn is in Pisces. So something can be notable in its missing, and then as Mercury retrogrades, you are tending to it. Now, because the first house is ruled by Saturn, whatever you need to fix here might take some time, and you're gonna have to also be aware that Jupiter is retrograde still, and it only becomes direct at the end of the month in Taurus, where you might get more relief. Why? This is where the knowledge of rulership comes in. Mercury is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograde. That tells me that only when Jupiter turns direct and Mercury turns direct do we get the resolution for the things that come up at this time. Jupiter goes direct at the end of the month. For Mercury, we're going to have to wait, I believe, until January. Let's just take a look. It can either be something to do with your skin, hair, teeth, nails, and it can be something to do with your feet because Saturn is in Pisces and Pisces rules feet. Jupiter is in Taurus, so it can be in the part, if you know reflexology, in the parts of your feet that are connected with the neck. So if we bring it all together, this is a great time to align your toes. Okay? Yes, we're going to be waiting for January for Mercury to go direct. This is a great time for you to align the structure of your toes. If you had any fungi or something to tend to, the skin care of your toes, because your toes are connected to your neck, and the neck is ruled by Taurus. So as you are tending to your neck, things also begin to resolve on a more holistic level. Your life path, your direction in life, what you are building in life. And you also need to look at where Saturn is in your natal chart and what do you have in your first house, okay? Because those things will tend to kind of be connected with each other. And because you're dealing with structure, then it takes some time. So it might be a process that you are finalizing or beginning. And this will alter your approach. Okay, neck in a holistic medicine is also about our approach in life. Are we flexible? Do we take the time to consider things? Are we flexible in our thinking? Can we hold our neck, okay, in a good posture? And when you tend to it through the legs, so you might be tending to both through the neck and through the legs and through the toes, because Mercury rules our fingers, our hands. So think about your toenails, their structure, and try to pay attention to the details. If something, if a finger kind of goes a little bit swing to the side, you might want to fix it, not in a surgery, but in actually beginning to massage your toes or tending to your feet with your toes, or somebody professional that does that. That can be excellent thing to do. And you might see that you might do that and you think about something with taxes, or you think about something with your teeth health, or about something with your food, or you're going to run into the correct information. Okay. Alternatively, even if you, let's say you have teeth, or a hair disease anywhere around the body, then tending to it through your feet and through your neck, you will see how those are related. And the posture, there is an approach called craniosacral healing that you might want to be looking into. So this was both tending to the Mercury retrograde and to the Jupiter that is going direct. And Jupiter is going direct in your fifth house. So you see that as you tend to this will already begin to coincide with your beliefs, worldview around fertility, children, creative projects, romance, and the risks and temptations. Okay, so if let's say have a problem with sugar or you're consuming sugar, you have addiction to sugar, you gotta see how that plays out. Really kind of like, how do I, do I receive love? Do I absorb love? Do I love myself enough? Do I pleasure myself? Or it can come through your relationship with your child. Okay, maybe you or your child have the sweet tooth. And as you kind of tend to your feet, you begin to remember things that come with that, and that can improve upon your fertility and your worldview around um, doing something creative, or the importance of being creative. If there was a creative block, it might be resolved. If you've been trying to conceive, that might help with conception. If it's your child, then your relationship with your child might be dramatically improved by the time that Jupiter goes direct. There's just something about your world philosophy that is changing and creating some more of a smooth beginning for you, or going over, patching up, whether it's conversation or your worldview or your philosophy or your religion, even. That becomes more, the minute you accept things and the minute you work on what you change about you, then you see that also the things to do with your fifth house become improved in some way. Okay, Neptune has already gone direct. Neptune is direct in your third house. And when Neptune was retrograde, there were certain things around your siblings, your neighborhood, that you have been dealing with. With Neptune direct, things move more smoothly, but there are certain things that you just surrender, and through them, you can kind of find resort to the problems that you're encountering. Now, Neptune is also where things can go boundaryless. So you could be having boundaryless relations with your siblings or in your neighborhood. Third house in the home is the bathroom, so there's some leakage that you might be tending to, or you might fixing. But the process of Neptune through your third is a process of surrender. You just see a change of phase. You could have a sibling that deals with some addiction, or something in your daily schedule you just need to surrender. There can be some due to some leakage, or you might be surrounded with people that are like, if you're in a certain neighborhood where they sell drugs, and that becomes a problematic issue. Um, so whatever plays out for you, then the co-ruler of Pisces is in your fifth house. Um, so there is just something where you or your child kind of bring up an issue with boundaries, and surrender is needed to create a change and set an intention with whatever it is. Okay. And this can also be a neighbor. It can be something as simple, because Jupiter rules the lungs, and it can be like a neighbor who smokes. Okay, or a neighbor that violates the boundaries. Let's say have a yard and the neighbor kind of like violates the boundaries there, so it can kind of like set the boundary there. Or there is some leakage and then you kind of meet with your neighbor, or something to do with that. As Jupiter turns direct at the end of the month, you will have more progress relative to this issue. Now, Jupiter increases things, so it can be things grow so much so that you just surrender them, and then a resolution comes in, because Jupiter, as you surrender something, the hidden benefit comes into your doorway. Okay, this is what you might want to understand, and that can have to do around your car as well. Okay, for Capricorn, for Capricorn ascendant, it could be something around your car, or you suddenly need to fix or to change, or a missing document. If you bring in together the Mercury retrograde, the co-presence of Saturn and Neptune, or driving license. Okay, something like this. When I already addressed it in my video about Neptune, but this is again, so cars, siblings, neighbors, creative projects, children, any physical body. What you want to be making sure is that you're listening to your body and you're not overworking yourself. If you do that, you can avoid an ailment. Okay, this is very important. And fifth house can also be romantic partner or romance. If you meet someone around this time, because Jupiter is retrograde, as long as Jupiter is retrograde or Mercury is retrograde in your first house, know that you're meeting this person. Yes, it is fated. It's highly unlikely to be what people call the one. Okay? Because you are meeting this person because there's something that you need to learn from them. But as these planets go direct, you probably are supposed to separate ways. And that's pretty much what it is about. And that's very, very likely what the issue is about. It's something that you had to learn from this particular person, but this romance is probably not about continuation at this point in time, because the seventh house is moon ruled. You want to pay attention to the position of the moon, to the lunar mansion, because lunar mansion tell you if a connection begins on this lunar mansion, how will it evolve? And you want to pay attention. Okay, you want to pay attention to this. Moon is particularly important for you, for your seventh house. And and the more you know about the moon and about the lunation, the more you will be able to understand about your seventh house. You think that the moon goes through the entire zodiac through 27 days. Saturn through 27 years. Okay, so your partner, if they have anything in Cancer, they stir up your seventh house, they can have a premonition about this connection, where they're seeing that this is not it, or they're seeing something and you just have to accept it, because the moon just gets to know the who's and who's so intimately that it can predict the moves that Saturn takes a while to predict. Okay, so you want to listen to your partner here, but also if your partner is kind of like, yeah, let's do it, let's go there, let's go for it, then they could be idealizing, and then you want to go yourself to which lunar mansion, what was the lunar mansion when this connection began. Okay, for example, today is the 18th lunar mansion. It's a lunar mansion. It's good for buildings, for structure, even for medicine and for your health. What it's not good for is to begin a partnership that may end in discord. Okay, so if you meet someone, it's very likely that you met them because of your health and not because they're supposed to be the one, and because we have this co-mingling of the Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury here, that this is what it is about. Okay, so if it comes to you and you think maybe there is something here because you have the presence of Jupiter in your fifth house, and kind of like you think, oh, maybe it's this something, it's this romance, it's this thing, and then you talk about something to do with healing with this person, then you know that this is probably where it's at. But then when Mercury will be direct and Jupiter will be direct, then around perhaps a good lunation, a good mention of the moon, you can perhaps meet someone, if it's likely that they come to you. Okay, either they come to you or the moon is in your fifth house. You get the most chances to meet people because the moon is just going through a lot, and then it's one less significator that you need. So you get like a moon around the growing moon, around your fifth, around your seventh, doing something there. And if you're in a moon perfected year, kind of like a seventh house perfected year or a fifth house perfected year, then that can happen. But I want you to pay attention, especially if you're a woman and Jupiter is going to your fifth house. You could be the most disillusioned. Know that you are coming to meet this person because they have something to teach you about health, healing, or some sort of taxation, communication, something like that. And you talk about practical stuff, and then that's it. Okay? And it's not fated in that way. It's fated in the sense that you just needed to get to know this information, and now it's the gathering up through those houses. So we talked about the retrograde and the directs. Now let's talk about the ingresses. So Venus is already in Scorpio as we speak, tropically, okay? Which means ideally she's in Libra, and you might want to take that into account. But tropically, Venus is in your 11th house. This is where you can get to meet romantic partners, or people that you meet around your hobby, while you are working at something to do with a conference, okay? But Mars is in your 12th house. So you could be going, let's say, to a hotel for a conference, okay? Hopefully not for work. I just went to do laundry, and I met the family from the people that were evacuated, and they're in the hotels in the Dead Sea. Then they came to do the laundry. Yeah, but for you, it's hopefully not around like work, but it's more like came to do this conference, and there is social gathering, and then I'm at the hotel room. And so or I go like at the hotel room, I come to this conference, and then at the conference, while I stay at the hotel, I meet someone, and then maybe I want to take her to the bedroom, okay? But the bedroom is kind of like bleed into an affair. But there is Saturn in Pisces, okay? It's like, is it long term? Is it short term? So this is where things can get kind of like mixed, especially if you're a man, because Venus is the partner for a man. And this is about romance. And Libra for you is the 10th house. You think about romance and career, and you can see how off that can get. Okay? It's not 7th house and career. It's the I really want to be in the bedroom with you. Oh, maybe we can do some fun stuff together. You can yourself get confused. It's not your intent to mislead anyone, but then it's kind of like, oh, this person also, your romance advance your career in general, because the ruler is the same ruler, the 5th and the 7th, and now the 5th and the 10th, and now it's in the 11th. So it's kind of it kind of like looks way more than it is. Really, okay? So you want to also be staying with your feet on the ground, because right now with Saturn in Pisces, your feet are somewhere in the clouds. Okay? As Saturnian as you are, you might use this Saturn as to, you might yourself be confused, or not be confused, but very easily this could be looking like you're building more than you are actually building. Okay? And in general, it's a lifeless teaching. Okay? Your fun and games and your career are ruled by the same ruler. So when you do both, it kind of looks like it's more serious than it is. And depending on which type of Capricorn ascendant you are, it could be more or less aware. You could be idealizing yourself, or you could be just playing the game. Let's see where that takes us both. Kind of like we both benefit from that. And here is where things can get messy on that level. Other than that, you can just meet some really interesting people and even have some nice time in the bedroom. Okay? When Mars is in your 12th and Venus is in your 11th. Okay, you might learn some new things, but in the context of like conference lectures, fun stuff that you do, and there's a hotel involved, so it can be a good time for a good time. You just want to make sure that you are not misleading anybody and that you're with your feet on the ground, yourself, especially now where everybody's kind of like, there's just worldly conflicts. And I really liked, yes, Caitlin Urban kind of posted around the moon year and around how we all feels like somebody can go through something at the other side of the world, and we all sense that, we all feel that energetically. So it doesn't matter, even if there's not a conflict zone where you are, because we are energy people, and through the 12th we feel what's at the other edge of the world. We all have this tendency to kind of like fall in love ships. We all have fall in love ships, and the baby boomers, like this, that deserves an episode of its own. All the baby boomers that are going to be with this years as well. So please, it's a good time for a good time, lots of romance. Babies can be a byproduct of that, even when you're careful, especially when the moon is potent. So moon right now is in Scorpio, but if the moon goes over Taurus, it's very fertile. Cancer is very fertile. So you have kind of like a fertile 5th house and a fertile 7th house. You might get more out of this than you expected. So so this is where, but being practical, just tending to it can really manage things. And if you are kind of like with your feet on the ground, then you could really have some really good time. Okay, but if you tend to feel like this is more than this, it's highly unlikely that that's the case this month. Okay, it's a great month. You're going to have a lot of cool experiences, but it's highly unlikely that you're meeting the one. That's what I have to say about this. Now, Venus is going to go to your 12th house. Let me tell you when that happens. We're going to have even better time in the bedroom. And that is, but also you might be aware, because 12th house, what does it mean? It means that the ruler of your romance and your career, or your boss, if you're having romance with your boss, could get into where they are a hidden enemy to you. Okay, so this is where you want to kind of just be aware of that. 12th house is the bedroom, but it's also hidden enemies, and also jail, hotel rooms, and hospitals. So yes, if you think about all those places, people go into the bedroom, and it's like the ER. It's kind of like they have to get something out of somebody's body because they were not careful in the bedroom. So a bedroom can let you in hospital, and if you're not practicing willing consent, can land you in jail as well. So yes, Venus ingresses into your 12th house at the 29th of December, which is kind of like 2 days before Jupiter goes retrograde in your 5th. So this is where you want to be cautious that your beloved affair and beloved boss, or if you are the boss and you're having an affair with someone, that they don't become kind of like your hidden enemy. Because the 12th house, while it is the bedroom, it's also our blind spot. Okay. A side note: when I came to treat like sexual boundary violation in the therapy room, so having this knowledge about astrology, like sex can be very scary because it's what we don't know that we don't know about ourselves, and you never know. Okay, until you do know, even when it's you. So this is. And every partner brings another thing. So this is what comes up with this Venus. But on the good side, if it's not like a loss of a relationship or a romantic partner, or yeah, hopefully you don't have like a child that lands itself in jail, then it can simply mean that you really have some time in the bedroom. Okay, so keep it, you know, keep it ethical, keep it safe, keep it sane, and enjoy. Um, so this is what we have, and I think our last ingress is um, Mars, which is already in Sagittarius. Let's take a look at our, because we had another ingress to discuss, or we have the lunations already, or Venus. Yeah, we have the lunations. So now let's talk about the lunations, because the new moon is coming up, and I made a separate video for the lunations. You can watch that too. But now, moon conjunct sun, new moon in Sagittarius, 20 degrees. This is your 12th house, but it applies to square Neptune in your 3rd house. So what I said to Scorpio, I think I said it to Scorpio ascendant, okay, because you are their 3rd house. If you're sleeping with your neighbor, there can be a sense of loss or leakage of information about this. Okay, so you're trying to have a secret. 12 houses when people trying to have a secret affair. Okay, please, Neptune squares your 12th house by sign. Anything that comes to the 12 leaves with the square to Neptune. So if you're trying to keep something secret, it will leak. Okay, granted, it is just kind of like lovey-dovey stuff in the bedroom and not something more like horrific than that. Then understand that even if you're kind of like having a secret affair or something like that, it will leak. If you prepare yourself in advance to the fact that this will leak and you won't be able to lie around this because Mercury, okay, you get the picture. So what can be here? It means that there's a new beginning in and around your 12. So it's what you don't know that you don't know, that can affect, of course, your mental health, or and can be even kind of like a factor in your physical health, but indirectly. Okay, and there is a new beginning regarding that. Okay, another thing can be you're traveling to a faraway land for pleasure, because 5th house is pleasure. But look, Jupiter is still retrograde, and there is a square with Neptune. It means you're going to have to surrender something upon this new beginning. It can be the case that you have kind of like, because it's your ruler of your 7th there, you have kind of like a partnership that begins there, but there is an ideation of the nature of the connection. Okay, this is where you could be ideating or your partner can be ideating, and it's kind of like the ruler of your 7th and 8th, and there is some sense of fated loss. Okay, my advice to you, don't try to keep anything secret, because then the loss would be of the partnership, of the friendship, of the fuck aroundship, but it won't be of your reputation. Venus, that is Jupiter is also ruled by, of your mental stability. Okay, or it won't land you in jail. Okay, if it's kind of like that kind of stuff. But it's not in jail. It can be, yeah, it is like hospital, jail, stuff like that. Hopefully it's not like the extreme case. You could have dreams that are a bit more violent because of Saturn, because of Mars in your 12th house. But here, please, whatever begins right now, there is some sort of fated ideation that is happening as the moon and the sun ingress to your 1st house. And if it can apply to conjunct Pluto, they will sextile Neptune, and you will get more of the disillusionment might be softened by the sextile. So the beginning, yes, it's a beginning of a 6 months or of a year. You're going to be affected by this. There's a fatal loss in regards to what you're beginning right now. Okay, so if you want to begin something that you are okay with losing, okay, let's say you are dating someone, okay? But you're not ready to actually do something about it. It's kind of like wanted to let the disillusionment take care of itself. um so and you don't want to kind of like begin a conversation you know would lead nowhere. Then this is where you can slowly dissipate, as long as you don't like flat out mislead someone, and you don't say things that you like. Really, your words here are, you need to count your words here, because you could be misleading yourself and misleading another. And because it touches your 7th and 8th house, either your partner or you or both could be highly misled about the nature of this connection. Because your Capricorn, Mercury is in your Capricorn sign, your communication might be about very practical thing, and it may be, and because your 7 and 8 houses are involved, you might be having something incredibly confusing even for you. Some of it you can't control, but all in all, if there's anything romance related, partnership related, and business, because partners and business can go together here, there is going to be some fated loss. The nature of the communication is unclear to both of you, and it doesn't mean that you or the other one lies on purpose, but please, this is a good time for a good time, but not more. Okay, because of the nature of Neptune, there can be some phased new beginning, or you deal with a certain loss, somebody ghosted you, and it's kind of like it's going to affect you for a couple of months. That's it. Now, let's go to the full moon. So you ask me, Shirley, what can I do about it? Okay, you can create something that you don't mind losing. You can write some poetry. You can, arranging your bedroom is also, you can do something creative in your bedroom. That doesn't necessarily mean like sex or pleasure. You can like paint in your bedroom, but not like paint the wall because you might be dissatisfied with the results. You can paint something you don't mind losing, or you can work on a sketch. And then as the moon grows and it becomes like the sextile and it's a growing moon, then you might want to lend the foundation. You can do something like that. Relating to kind of like how do you deal with relationship. You can paint, or you can do something artistic, and the sun loves art as well. So that is something with like a painting that you do while you are sitting in the bedroom. Okay, then that can be something that it's okay. If it's like a sketch, you might lose this painting, but it's not, or you're going to build on it as the moon sextiles is still growing, and then will be a better time. You need to check the moon to begin things. But definitely what you don't want to do with this is relationships, even intimacy, although it will be very tempting because the moon is sensual and Jupiter, of course, is sexual. It's in Taurus. Oh my God, it wants to have some pleasure. And so there may be some like misleading that is kind of like either you are misled, but if you're listening to me, hopefully you will not be so misled, or you have this kind of illusion that is very difficult, this longing, Neptune is very difficult to get over, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, what begins now is not going to be with the square. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be kind of like the best decision to make. Okay, granted that we all sense what's going on in the world, so even if there's peace around your area, there's this section, especially the bedroom parts, where you feel kind of like the overall energies, and there are energies of let's make babies to cover up for all these deaths. Okay, let's create some life, and people fall in love, become extremely passionate, become extremely eroticized, and eroticism kind of builds up, and you're feeling that where things do happen and were not the best decision. Now, the full moon is going to happen in your seventh house. My God, this month for you, but it's a fatally misleading month. This is where things come to a full circle, okay? And the full moon is going to reveal something to you about your partner that has to do with, and also it might reveal to your partner something about you, or more so about your eighth house, okay? If you have depth, you've been hiding it from your partner. It's like, I want to begin a serious relationship, but you have like serious debt, and your partner is marrying this debt in most countries and in most arrangements. And so, kind of like, if you kept that hidden, if you kept that a secret, or you might just thought, hey, it's too early to bombard them with such news, so I'm going to tell them, then this might be revealed. And again, because Mercury is still retrograde, it's retrograde in your 12th house. So the way in which this is revealed might create a certain perception around you, how they see you. Okay, luminary 7th house and 8th house. That is undermining the goal of this relationship. But I remind you that whatever began around this December begins, it is a faith loss. So even if they kind of see you like, oh, this person is lying, they were probably, hopefully you're not hiding like a hidden marriage or something like that, but it's kind of like, oh, they didn't tell me about this debt that they have, or these assets, or maybe they're still parting, divorcing, and separating assets. Like, oh, they could have told me that before we were sleeping together. Okay, but your partner also perhaps forgets that they were as eager to get into bed with you as you were with them. And they were as eager to be disillusioned about the connection of this relationship as you are. And so it kind of felt like, oh, it's going to be awkward to talk about this. Okay, so this is where you could be perceived as a liar while you're not intending to lie. And even on the background of that, with the Mercury going direct, you might separate. You might kind of both. This can create a discord because you kind of like, hey, I was talking about everything practical ground up. We were building up so much. And I just felt like, should I stop you and tell about this? But hey, we don't even know where we're going. Let's just wait until we get to know each other. We were already in the hotel, and so on and so forth. This is where kind of like things are revealed. And Cancer. Okay, Cancer has a quality of moodiness to it. So they're going to get very emotional, or you're going to get very practical, or you're going to get emotional around the relationship. So you discover something about each other where what happens in your eighth house in particular can affect the way your partner sees you, because the sun is in your first house and the moon is in your seventh. Or you may have projected some ideal, and this ideal is kind of like the breaking of that dream. With the Mercury retrograde, okay, there is still something to patch up, but it can be that there is a discord. There is a discord around communication, or it may be like around children or something creative that you do or whatnot. It's easy to say, don't take this to the heart, because you will. It can be a bit of a heartbreak. I'll tell you that. It could be a bit of a heartbreak. This Mars is conjuncting this Mercury. Is a heartbreak around communication. And please, this is faith, okay? So it doesn't mean not to tend to your emotions, not at all. It just means that sometimes things are a little bit beyond our control, and this is where the troubles kind of like are revealed, okay? But you will also find out a thing about your seventh house. First of all, you might learn from that what I see here that you learn from that is to expose your eighth house before you get in between the sheets with someone, and to make sure that they expose what they have to say too before you get in the bedroom. Okay, the bedroom is the 12th. It's much easier to go kind of like through your 5th, a little bit to your 7th, to your 8th, and the bedroom is now, of course, we live in modern times also, not so good for us to not get in the bedroom until after we married, because we simply don't know this aspect of ourselves, okay, that might not be compatible. But definitely you want to make sure that you had a little bit of conversation, you had a little bit of kind of dating, you had a little bit of a serious talk about how do we see the 7th house, and then you had a little bit of an 8th house talk before you get under the sheets, because under the sheets is your bedroom. It's not that people say, oh, there is 8th house sex, there is this house sex. Every sex involves the 12th. Every sex involves the 12th. Okay? And so you want to go through these things, because even when you say, okay, it's a one-night stand, babies do happen even when you're cautious. So you already need to talk about the age, because what if somebody gets pregnant and they want to keep the baby and they're not stealing sperm from you, they're just pro-life. And you were having a one-night stand. It's like, aren't the people who are pro-life kind of like living on a hill, you know, worshiping Jesus in some sort of cultish way, voting for, you know, Trump? And it's just like, but you're a trans queer voting for Biden. Yes, but I'm pro-life. How does it even? It does. So things can get also messy in this way. Remember, Uranus is in your 5th. Okay? I remind you, Uranus, what does it do in the 5th? Watch my episode. Watch my episode. Okay? About relationship wisdom. It takes one thing and another thing randomly, and it mingles them together, or it takes two things that you used to be connecting as one, and it separates them. And it does that randomly. And so you have this unusual attraction that is meant to vivify your life. And now it's going through your 5th. Some new hobbies or fertility or children, okay? And to vivify your life. And once the defining thing would be to end the relationship, this is what will happen. And it will defy your consciousness as well, because it works on your nervous system. If you have any prejudice, it's going to help fixing that. Okay? So the full moon for you is about this culmination of the crisis where you readjust your expectation, and this will prepare you for a better relationship. Maybe talking about your 8th house before you get under the sheets, especially when you do intend for that to be more. Okay, it's not about being traditional about things, but I look at this process, but it's about, hey, if you do want to leave the door open for something, then you want to talk about things, because later if you say, oh, I was just thinking it's going to be a one-night stand, and you know, and what do you know, I fell in love. Now you talk about your depth, what it looks like to your partner. Okay, so sometimes it's a way of communicating that, but with this particular one, there was confusion. And if you wonder, should I speak about the 8th house before we go to the bedroom? You should. Both of you should. This is my insight from watching this. Okay, just what I think from watching this. Yes, you should. Because when you're upfront, and this is so true, luminary in the 8th, when you're upfront about your 8th house, your 7th will go smoothly. This is what I get from here. Now, of course, you have your aspect, your this, or that, but it's kind of like a general thing. When you're upfront about your 8th house, then the 7th will go smoothly, and then the bedroom will be easier, because now you're taking off your clothes. First of all, they also have intimacy, and B, you're already stripping off when a lot of the baggage that you can have about each other has been tended to. Okay, so you have intimacy. Okay, now most of the ways to have sex without intimacy concur in what I tell you, I'm watching these shorts by a German woman, and she talks about relationships and so on and so forth. Um, and you see kind of like how people don't even get to really get into the bedroom, someone you don't actually care about. They usually come off as rapey, toxic, like, and it's not necessarily something people are aware of. It's kind of like, oh, this is the kind of thing I want to do with someone that I care about, and then kind of like more softness comes in, or but not necessarily softness or whatever comes in, and then it's kind of, oh, this is the things I kind of want to do with this person, and you just feel like you want to have sex with them. But then, like, you're not even aware of the way you have sex where you actually care about the person. Okay, it doesn't mean you're a narcissist or you're toxic, but it can come off as your instinct when you're kind of like getting into the things. They feel toxic to the other party, regardless of your gender. So this is where, you know, I don't like you're very aware, but all sex is also 12th house sex. And it's better to talk about, for you, that the 8 will be visible, then you won't project so much, because the 8 is what you're projecting, is the sun, is your projector, what somebody projects onto you. Okay, and the moon, your partner's the moon, is like we project this on the moon. So your hidden, the things you swipe under the rug make you project something on your partner. This is where your relationship could be really toxic. Okay, you can stop that by, what do I swipe under the rug? Do I have debt? Do I have ancestral trauma? Do I have an issue around birth? Do I do that? When that is up front with the person before you remove your clothes, you won't be tempted to project on them things that have nothing to do with them. They're not your ex, they haven't cheated on you, they haven't violated you, but you just begin to talk with this person. Okay? And then when you take off your clothes, you can enjoy sex. That's what we're meant to do in the bedroom. Okay? And a lot of these projectors, if the sun is out, now you know what we're projecting. Now we tend to it up front. Now we get, what do you have in the bedroom? Jupiter. You get freedom in the bedroom, okay, with your partner. Ain't that great? Okay, so in some fated way, you're going through the journey of tending to it, or learning how to do this correctly, or learning when to speak about things. And eventually, my prediction is that it will lead you to, I should talk about this earlier. And when it comes to, I believe the advice is I should talk about this earlier and not I should talk about this later. And and sometimes it can be even fake. Okay, you so you're having a mood. Okay, you're sitting with someone. You take them to your room. You want to talk about 8th house, but you're already in the location of the 12th. The conversation goes backwards. Okay, so if you're still listening right now, before you take someone to the location of where you can sleep together, make sure you talk about your 8th house before that. You could do it like at a restaurant or something like this. Now, if it's a conference, it's kind of like tempting. Oh, let's go to my room, let's go to your room. None of that. You don't enter a bedroom, yours or theirs, before you've done that 8th house exposure. But right this month, it might happen anyway. Okay? And once that happens, it kind of ruins the passage of things, simply because you didn't reveal your 8th, and it's not your fault. Okay, so also kind of like, I hope this brings like self-validation, compassion with yourself. It's not like you've ruined everything. That was not meant to be. But some good time in the bedroom was meant to be. Okay, so there's also kind of like the dharma of things for both of you. Yes, I see it's mainly kind of like around, of course, like around romance, the lunations. So the lunations for you are very romantic. Okay, in general, because your 7th house is ruled by the moon. It's just insight that I'm getting. I think we're pretty much done. Now, if it's business partnership, then of course, you know, perhaps your desire to do business can land you in a big deal. Anything you can find out about previous debts, things that might be hidden. And here again, if you're going to a conference or like a business conference or networking, you might end up in the bedroom. Usually for you, it's not necessarily a bad sign because both the luminaries rule your 7th and 8th, and it's very likely the lunations and eclipses affect these. And it's not unlikely you have an 8th house thing with your partner. One of the signs where it can happen ethical, it can happen, depending on how it's aspected in your chart. This month is not expected to have to yield, and I don't know the fate of the loss, okay? But it's also understanding some losses are fated, and your Saturn ruled, so you'll just learn to build up for it, and you also learn that even when you build up for things, there are still losses. It's not something that you're not resilient to. It's just something that happens and is fated. So this is the month for you. Hope that was helpful.